Now that we're getting to more complex queries using subqueries, the classroom workspace may seem a bit cramped. If you've not already been writing your queries in an editor, now is a great time to start. Here's my workflow. You can see over here on the left, I have my editor open with a subqueries.sql extension. And then over here on the right is the classroom, where I can read the questions and execute my code. So now let's take a look at this first question. It says, provide the name of the sales rep in each region with the largest amount of total USD sales. In order to solve this problem, let's first try to pull some of this information together. We can see that the sales rep information exists in this table, the region information is over here, and the total amount USD is over here in the orders table. Therefore, we need to join these four tables together in order to pull all this information together. So let's go ahead and start. I'll start with let's see. Start with a comment that sort of says subqueries, subquery mania. Question 1. Cool. That'll say, I might just rip this. Okay, so that should make it easier to find this stuff when I come back. And let's go ahead and start tackling this problem. So we want to pull all this information together. So let's go ahead and start with the sales rep table. So sales reps. I'll label that with an alias of SR. Let's join the region table. I'll label that with an alias of R. We want to join this where the primary and foreign keys match. And so therefore that says like SR region ID is equal to R dot ID. And then if we want to pull the accounts information, I'll have an alias of A. And we want A sales rep ID equal to SR dot ID. And then let's join the orders table. And we'll join that on O dot account ID equal to A dot ID. Cool. So now we sort of have all of our information pulled together. We can see from the query, we're going to need the name of the sales rep, the region, and then the total amount of sales for each of these reps. So let's go ahead and just pull some of that information together. So if we pull the sales rep information, sr.name, and then we can pull the region information, so r.id, r.name, and then the orders, we want the total amount, and we need the, basically for each rep, we want the sum of this. So let's just call that total sales. And then we're going to want to group by the things that aren't in our alias. So our alias is right here, and we have these two columns that are outside of it. I'll just do 1, 2, and we might do an order by the third descending, let's say. Let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. Cool, so it looks like that executed. But you can see we only got one name column back, and that's probably because the workspace is confused about having these two columns named the same thing. So let's be more explicit. Let's just call this rep name and region name. Let's try that again. Cool, so now we got 3 of them. We have the rep, the region, and the total sales. But for this question, we want to provide the name of the sales rep in each region with the largest amount of total sales. So basically, what we want for the Southeast region is we want this individual. For the Northeast region, we want this individual. But here we have another Southeast region person. We don't want them showing up in our table. This person should be for the West, and then any other regions that we have, we basically just want that top individual. So in order to do this, whoops, we don't want to do that. So in order to do this, we're going to have to do a tricky join, and but this is pretty common to have to, like, basically we have the information from this table, and we like that. And what we want along with this is we want to be able to pull from this table just, let's see here. So we want from this table, so we're going to create a subquery, and I'm just going to call this T1. We could probably come up with a better naming convention for that, but we want to pull from T1, and then basically what we want to do is we want to select the region, right? So for each region, we just want the maximum total sales, right? So for each region, and this is called the region name in T1. So from this table that we just looked at, that one that exists right here, we're going to pull the region along with the max total sales for that region. And because this is already grouped by the individual, we're just going to get the max number over here for each region. So for Southeast, this should just pull this number. And for Northeast, it should just pull this number. And for the West, it should pull this number. And then it'll keep looking. And then you can see we have this Northeast region, and so it should just pull this max one. And all the rest of these should go away. Unfortunately, we can't do this all at once, because if we group by the individual again, the individual along with the region is still unique. So we'd end up with all of these table values back. But if we group by just the region and we pull the max, we should only get the one rep with the maximum amount of sales. So that's what we're going to do in this table. Okay, so this is the max sales for the region. Because we have another aggregate up here, we're going to need to group by anything that's not in the aggregate. So it's just this first thing. Let's go ahead and run this and make sure that it works. Cool. So now what you're seeing is we have these 4 regions. Oh, and I think I said the wrong thing about the Northeast earlier. But we have these 4 regions, each with their max sales. And essentially what we want to do is we want to match that back to the original table. We want to match that to the table that we had before, where the regions match, as well as where the total sales is equal to the max sales. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have this table. That's this one that exists over here on the right now. So we're going to take that, and we'll just, again, I'm just going to call it T2. And we'll pull, let's go ahead and tab this over. So let's pull from that. And we want to join on this table down here. So we're going to join on this table down here. And I'll just alias this with T3. So basically this table right here is T2. T3 was the table that we executed earlier. And we want to join where this max sales is equal to the sales that we saw in that earlier table, and then pull both the region and the rep from the join. So let's select, and essentially it really doesn't matter where we pull the region or the max, whether we pull max sales or total sales. The really important part here is the join portion. So from T2, we could pull the region name. And from T2, we could also pull the max sales. And then from T3, we need to pull the rep name. And I'm just going to put that first. Okay, so here we have the 3 parts that we need to pull. Comma. And then the important part here is how we join these 2 tables together. So we have this table up here that has the region name and the max sales for a particular rep. And now essentially what we want to do is we want to join that. So we want to join on the region name equal to the other region name. And we want the max sales in T2, to be equal to the total sales in T3. So if these two, right, so if the regions match, then we know that we're looking at the right region. And if the max sales is equal to the total sales, then that means that this sales, the max sales is equal to the sales that we saw for a particular rep in this first table. So it'll only pull essentially the representatives, the sales representatives who have sales that are equal to these amounts and where they're in this region. So basically, as you can see, the Southeast has the highest. So maybe there's somebody in the Southeast who has this. And if we didn't match on this region here, then potentially there could be multiple with the max sales that we have in the Midwest, but it's not the max for that region. This is the max for that region. So we need to match on both the region and the sales amounts. Cool. So let's go ahead and run this and see if I made any mistakes. Okay, so it looks like we got 4 results. We have the Southeast, the Northeast, the West, and the Midwest, and nothing else is showing there. So there were those 4 regions. And here's essentially the max amount of sales by a particular rep, and then the name of that representative.